Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. My name is Andy Biggs. I'm the congressman from Arizona's 5th Congressional District. We excuse my friend Andy Ogles from Tennessee. He's had 2 flights canceled. He's fighting weather to get back up here, and he's otherwise would be here, but he sends his regrets and his support of this press conference today. And we appreciate all of you from the media who are attending, and I appreciate specifically and very much the parents and advocates who stand behind me and who will be speaking and addressing you today. I recognize these courageous parents, leaders, and patriots who stood up for their children in their schools, when attending hostile school board meetings, and in their communities. We're here today to share the stories of parents who were targeted, surveilled, and when they were attempted to be silenced by Joe Biden and Merrick Garland's radical Department of Injustice, these parents stood tall and fought back. They committed no crime. They simply did what all mothers and fathers do. They protected their children. And for that sense, that feeling of obligation, that feeling of love for their children, they were labeled by the Biden-Harris regime as domestic terrorists, but they were protecting their children. The Department of Justice was weaponized and coordinated with woke school boards and attempted to intimidate American parents into silence. The DOJ didn't simply try to cancel these parents. They attempted to criminalize them. That is unconstitutional, and it is also un-American. So today, we're gathered here to celebrate the vindication of these parents in standing up for the most fundamental obligation of a mom and dad. To every politician and bureaucrat who thought they could bully moms and dads into submission to the detriment of their children, you picked the wrong fight. Parents don't surrender their rights at the school doors. They don't answer to school boards, and they certainly don't take marching orders from a weaponized Department of Justice. President Trump has stood with these parents from day one, and we stand with him, and I stand with these parents. This movement is not about politics. It's about protecting our children and restoring sanity to our schools and our communities. Parents, not the government, are the ultimate authority in their child's life. Don't ever let anyone tell you differently. You will hear stories today that will make your blood boil. Stories of intimidation, retaliation, and abuse of authority and power. We have learned, sadly, that when people get some power or think they have power, almost invariably they abuse it. And they sought to abuse it against parents of children. But you're going to also hear stories of courage. You'll hear the voices of Americans who refuse to back down, the ones who are leading the charge to take our country back, one school board at a time. I'm honored to stand with each of you today. And I thank God for the fire in your bellies and your hearts. And so we're going to hear a series of speakers telling their stories of what happened to them, what happened in their schools, what happened in their communities. And it's my privilege now to introduce first Sam Sorbal. Sam.
Good morning, fellow parents, patriots, and defenders of our children's future. On behalf of the Parents Demanding Justice Alliance, let me say what used to be common sense, but now must be shouted from the rooftops. Parents are the single most important factor in a child's academic success. Not the bureaucrats, not the union bosses, and certainly not the school board elites. Parental involvement is the #1 predictor of success. We are not intruders in our children's education. We are the foundation of it. A mother helping with homework, a father showing up to a science fair, a grandparent asking about reading assignments. Home is where character is formed, where confidence begins, and where education truly starts. But today we face a threat, and it's coming from inside the schools. Too many administrators and board members treat parents who are involved as obstacles, not allies. They want absolute power over our children, so they slap labels on us: extremists, threats, troublemakers, to intimidate other parents into silence and submission. And just to be clear, any school administrator or board member who discourages parental involvement is working to destroy that child's education. We are the primary directors of our children's education because when the family breaks down, the classroom collapses. When parents are pushed out, the system fails. No parents, no success. No family, no future. It's time to put parents back in charge of schools where they've always belonged. When President Trump said, "Make America great again," he knew that that greatness begins in home, in strong families with present, loving, involved parents. But it doesn't stop at home. It must be protected in the classroom. So we will not allow schools to divide parents from their children. We will not allow our rights to be trampled by petty tyrants in cheap suits. We call on President Trump, our parent-in-chief, to recognize the brave families who stood in the gap, who showed up, spoke out, and took the hits for their kids. To those parents, we see you. We honor you. We stand with you. Let's put family first again. Let's restore freedom to the home. And above all, let's make parenting great again. Thank you. May God bless our nation's children and the parents who fight for them. And now it is my extreme honor to introduce the co-founder of Parents Defending Justice Alliance, Kelly Walker.
Good morning. I think it's about 120% humidity out here. It's a warm Washington day. Thank you for coming out. I want to thank everyone behind me, both literally and metaphorically, for coming out. You're going to meet some great people and hear some great things. Thank you to Andy Ogles, who's detained at the airport, for hosting this, and for another Andy Biggs for stepping in. This is a very important message, and it is a key message for our nation at this time. I want to thank Ed Martin and Vince Haley for meeting with me and Sam and others from our coalition on behalf of parents across the nation. This has given many of us a sense of hope that we haven't felt in years. Across all cultures and political lines, few values are more sacred than a parent's instinct to protect their child. Even in nature, nearly every creature understands that drive. When government institutions surveil, silence, or punish parents for doing what nature itself compels, they don't just violate rights, They offend the laws of nature and nature's God, as our Declaration has it. That's why we're here today, to speak truth and to restore the lives of those who never should have been punished for doing what is natural, moral, and right. The intimidation, arrest, and smearing of parents was not a minor misstep. The DOJ initiated the misrepresentation of parents as domestic terrorists and collaborated with school boards and local officials to surveil, silence, arrest, and jail innocent school moms and dads like common criminals. The National School Board Association has apologized for labeling parents domestic terrorists. Merrick Garland admitted there were no federal indictments, no acts of violence were ever documented. Yet for these parents, the trauma remains and the issue has not been resolved. And the damage was all too real, believe me, I know. Leaving families to pick up the pieces emotionally, financially, and in the eyes of their communities, their reputations tarnished and ruined. I know this firsthand because I was targeted relentlessly and my family was put through hell. My kids are here, my wife is here. I have a lovely family. I'm a father of 5. Among other things in my life of 55 years, I've been a bilingual teacher on the border. I taught in the country of Sri Lanka for a year, volunteering a year of my life. In 2021, my wife and I opened a coffee shop in Vail, Arizona. It became a haven for families in crisis. We didn't care what their party was, their system of beliefs, religion. We were there, and we were told stories of depression, abuse, suicide, not just ignored by school officials, but suppressed. At the time, I was also editor-in-chief for a national medical publication. I knew the science, but I watched concerned parents demonized by people who cared more about funds from the CDC than they cared about truth and the well-being of our children. When I peacefully advocated for a child forced to wear a mask from a trash can, I was arrested and sentenced to 100 days in jail and $10,000 in fines, which were illegally taken out of our home sale. Despite video evidence, every moment of the incident, a judge confirming no crime occurred, unfortunately not my judge, and my story is just one of dozens. Sam and I and some of the people behind us have spent most of this month compiling stories, including from some of the parents here today, and I'm going to release, I think actually to the media, I sent a redacted version of this report. And we have parents who are Republican, Democrat, independent, progressive, because this isn't a partisan issue. We've compiled a 35-page dossier of parents, left, right, and center, all targeted for standing up for their children. That's why we're calling on President Trump to issue a landmark executive order to restore life, liberty, and pursuit of these families that they enjoyed before their own government made them enemies of the state for doing what's natural for a parent to do. And it isn't about reparations. It's about restitution for direct harm by specific government actors to identifiable individuals. We want to restore people to the place they were before the government attacked them. So we're not standing here today for a complex cause. It shouldn't be controversial. We're standing for something pure and good. The right of parents to speak up when their children are in danger. That shouldn't divide us, it should unite us. And I pray this executive order will be a balm to a divided nation, and to paraphrase lines from a 1985 song by Sting 40 years ago. There is no monopoly on common sense on either side of the political fence. We share the same biology, regardless of ideology. What might save us, me and you, is if both parties love their children too. Andy, there you go. I'd now like to introduce a great friend and advocate for parents from Moms for Liberty, Catalina Stube.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the press. Thank you, Congressman Biggs, for you being here to amplify the voices of parents across America. Today we stand united to share stories of injustice, resilience, and hope, stories that the mainstream media has often ignored. We are parents who have faced reign of tyranny from power-hungry school officials, emboldened by the Biden administration, who sought to silence us and strip away our fundamental rights. But thanks to the President Trump's unwavering commitment to truth and justice, we are beginning to see vindication. And we are here to ensure these atrocities against American families never happen again. For too long, parents have been caught in battles as old as time itself, a struggle over who has the authority to guide our families' upbringing, education, and moral compass. King Solomon, the wisest man in history, once wrote, "There is nothing new under the sun." And yet, every day seems to bring fresh assault on our sacred role as parents. The stake could not be higher. Will loving parents or unelected government employees decide what's best for our children? The United States Supreme Court has affirmed for over a century that parental rights are fundamental. This means any government action infringing on our rights must be undeniable, necessary, use the least restrictive means, and have no alternative. Yet, despite this clear legal precedent, we see our rights erode in the one place where fight remains fiercest, our public schools. Let me be clear, we do not co-parent with the government. Our rights to direct our children's education, medical care, morality, and faith are not granted by the state. They are inherited, God-given, and non-negotiable. Consider the chaos of March 2020, when public schools across the nation shuttered without a shred of parent input. Virtual learning became a hollow substitute for education, with accountability absent and students' engagement plummeting. Federally mandated service for our most vulnerable children were ignored, even as a school continued to receive funding. Parents watched helpless as teachers' union fought to keep classrooms closed, leaving our children to grapple with depression, anxiety, and developmental setbacks. We ask ourselves, when did America become a nation that prioritized protecting adults over nurturing our children? When we turned to our school boards seeking answers and solutions, we were met with hostility. Our rights to petition, a cornerstone of our constitutional republic, was trampled. Parents who dared to speak out were silenced. Their microphones cut off, their voices expelled from meetings. And then, in an unthinkable betrayal, the Biden administration weaponized the FBI against us. A whistleblower revealed that Attorney General Garland directed the FBI to target parents, creating threat tag for those who simply express dissent at the school board meetings. Imagine the chilling moment when a mother making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for her kids answers a call from the FBI questioning her comments at a local meeting, proving her mental health and demanding secrecy. This is not the American we know. Moms for Liberty, with 30,000 members strong, has stood shoulder to shoulder with parents facing this unjust treatment. We are moms, dads, grandparents, and concerned citizens, not domestic terrorists. We will not be intimidated to silence to protect a failing system. The Department of Justice betrayed the trust of American people, and there must be accountability. While the FBI harassed parents, our children's education suffered. Schools are failing not because of parents, but because of a system that prioritizes ideology over learning, teaching our children to disrupt their families and view our nation as irredeemably flawed. The evidence is clear. Parental involvement is the greatest predictor of a child's education success. Yet, when parents are shut out, the quality of public education crumbles. As legal scholars Michael Farris and Bradley Jacob warned in 1998, diminishing parental rights divide family away from public school toward homeschooling, private school, charter school, and voucher programs. Every time a school board or court sidelines parents, more families take their children and their tax dollars elsewhere. This creates an involvement gap that widens the achievement gap, harming the very students who remain in public schools. Victory over parents comes to a step cost, a weaker education system and fractured society. But we are not here only to recount the pain. We are here to celebrate the fight and the progress. Thanks to decades of advocacy, parents have won the rights to choose private schools and homeschooling, once banned, now thriving. This victory reminds us that change is possible when we stand together. As today, we stand with President Trump, who has championed our cause and exposed the injustice we have endured. His leadership has given us a platform to demand accountability and protect the sacred bond between parent and child. We are joyful warriors, fighting for the future of our nation with a smile on our faces because our children are watching. We build relationships, stand for truth, and empower parents to reclaim the rightful role. The heart of parental rights is simple. Children need to be loving guidance of their parents, not heavy hand of the state. A government that breaks the parent-child bond is a path to tyranny we will never accept. So we call on all Americans to join us, hold accountable those who violate their oath to the Constitution, demand transparency for our school, and affirm once and for all that it takes a family, not a bureaucracy, to raise a child. Together with President Trump's continued fight for justice, we will ensure that no parent is silenced, no child is left behind, and no family is torn apart by overreaching officials. Thank you, and may God bless our children, our family, and our nation. Now, I have the honor to introduce Chad Williams.
Good morning. My name is Chad Williams, and I'm a husband and father of 4 from Westchester, Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to Congressman Ogles for hosting this and for Congressman Biggs for introducing us today, and to Kelly Walker and Sam Sorbal and the entire team at Parents Demanding Justice Alliance for leading the charge and giving me an opportunity to share my story. This is truly an answer to prayer. Christian parents don't have a massive lobbying group. We don't have the equivalent of a well-funded ACLU to fight back against unlawful conduct by school officials or to otherwise fight for our civil rights on a national scale. We are individual citizens and taxpayers with jobs and other responsibilities who are compelled to pour our blood, sweat, and tears into the fight for parental rights because we owe it to future generations. The ongoing violation of my constitutional rights by the Pennsylvania Department of Education and the Unionville-Chadds Ford School District has been covered by national media, so the details are available for anyone who wants to learn more about my story. My family and I have endured a coordinated campaign of threats and retaliation by corrupt public officials who are weaponizing government against me in order to hide their egregious misconduct and to avoid accountability for their documented violations of law. I am represented by the Pacific Justice Institute, and I currently have civil rights complaints pending before the Department of Education and the Department of Justice. When those investigations are concluded, I fully expect a complete transparency and accountability so that what is being done to my family will never be done to another American family again. Children and families were harmed by the unlawful policies forced on us during COVID. And traditional Christian values are under attack by a well-funded campaign to indoctrinate students in Marxist ideologies like critical race theory, gender theory, and queer theory. In response, President Trump has set a clear policy and enforcement initiative through executive orders like ending radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling. But now it's time for Congress to step up and do their part. My experience in the critical swing state of Pennsylvania illustrates why we need Congress to join us in this fight. Pennsylvania spends nearly $20 billion a year on K-12 education, which includes hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government. Meanwhile, Governor Josh Shapiro and his Democrat minions thumb their noses at President Trump's domestic agenda and have shown no signs of relenting in their mission to indoctrinate Pennsylvania children with left-wing values. Meanwhile, Pennsylvania Republicans are terrified of the public education machine, so they remain on the sidelines in the battle for parental rights. And school choice is a distant pipe dream for nearly all Pennsylvania families. Congress must conduct investigations and hold hearings about the extent to which school boards and other educational agencies were empowered by the federal government to target parents during COVID and beyond. There must be investigations into the extent to which radical ideologies permeate our public education system and the manner in which public funds are used to deny parents their fundamental rights. There must be a reckoning that includes federal action to make education choice, education freedom, a reality for every American family, especially in states like Pennsylvania, where Democrats who are funded by the public education lobby control state government and openly discriminate against Christian families. Public officials can't take the loyalty and support of Christian families for granted any longer. It's time to step up and take bold action in defense of parental rights, or risk losing our support in the next election. The stakes for our families and our country couldn't be any higher. It's now my pleasure to introduce Kimberly Fletcher, President of Moms for America.
It is really nice to be able to have an advocate in the administration in the White House instead of an adversary that we've had for the last 4 years. And honestly, it's been long before that. I was labeled a helicopter parent with a tinfoil hat for 20 years, trying to warn parents of what was happening. In 2020 and 2021, they saw for themselves, and it was something they could not unsee. There is an attack on our children. You do not want to stand between a mother and a child, and that is the movement that you have seen erupt across the country. Moms for America is a national movement of over 500,000 moms across the country standing up to defend our children, protect them, defend our freedoms, and restore and secure the republic, because that is how our children will have a future. This idea that the government has better knowledge and better understanding of what our children need is erroneous. It is a false lie. In 2017, we penned the Declaration of Mothers. It was entered into the congressional record by then Congresswoman Diane Black, and it was reintroduced this year by Congresswoman Mary Miller with a few minor adjustments, because we didn't realize that defining a man and a woman was going to be an issue, and that our children were going to be taught in schools that they aren't who they are. That is not what education is about. We are simply wanting to go back to reading, writing, arithmetic, real science, true history. It's not that difficult. That's why parents show up at school board meetings, because they want their children to get a good quality education, and they want them to be protected. They want them to be safe in the schools. That is not what they're getting under the current government regulations and policies within these school districts. So while we have an advocate in the White House and in the administration, we are still fighting on the ground. The school board, National School Board Association, that labeled us as domestic terrorists, has a state affiliate in every single state. There's a principals association, a superintendent's association. All of these associations are out to go against everything that we want as parents and vilify us as parents. And we are funding it with our own tax dollars. District funds are paying for those advocacies, those agencies, and we need to take their money away. The one thing I want to leave you with is the a section of the Declaration of Mothers, which again you can find in the congressional record. We recognize the sacred role of mother as the heart of the home, and home is the heart of society. The liberty of each individual begins in the home, and parents are first and foremost the primary teachers and protectors of their children in a free society. Properly constructed social, religious, and governmental institutions are designed to support and strengthen the family unit, not restrict it, regulate it, and certainly not replace it. No association or government organization can replace the family, no matter how well-intentioned or how well organized it may be. It was always the role of the parent to make sure that the children are taught, nurtured, protected. That is our role, and we are not giving it up. I would now like to introduce Leah Hoops. Yes, there she is.
Good morning. It's an honor to stand before you today. First of all glory to God. I want to thank Kelly, Sam, Representative Ogles, U.S. Attorney Ed Martin, and Representative Mr. Biggs, and our president for their unwavering fight for us parents. And to the parents here and across America who stood up against tyranny, I stand with you. My faith carried me to this fight alongside all of you patriots to protect our children. To my son, I would die protecting you. My name is Leah Hoops. I'm a mama bear and a patriot. First, I was a poll watcher in November of 2020 in Delaware County. I submitted a declaration under penalty of perjury and petitioned my government, and I endured severe intimidation. But I was also a very concerned parent in Garnet Valley School District, as I was concerned about the mandated jabs and the face diapers known as masks that were going on our children's faces. I endured severe intimidation. Agents were sent to my home by the Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro, the FBI, and local police in response to false reports, all in an attempt to silence and intimidate me. At the same time, I was uncovering and exposing the bribery in schools known as ESSER funding used to implement unscientific health and safety plans. I led a group of 50 unmasked parents to Garnet Valley School Board meeting, demanding to end the masking and the vaccination mandates. In response, the board called the Pennsylvania State Police in an attempt to shut down the meeting and intimidate us. But we stood our ground. The Daily Times published a prominent article targeting me, featuring my name and photo front and center in an effort to smear my reputation. This is another way for the Biden regime to target me and violate my constitutional and civil rights. As that article was used as number 12 in the National School Board Association letter demanding parents be labeled domestic terrorists by the Biden DOJ. In that same month, I was sued for defamation with President Trump in Philadelphia, and I won that case representing myself, and I am now 2 for 2. I've been sued 3 times to force me to comply and silence me and my family. My son and I have endured emotional distress and lived in constant fear for my safety. Even after 5 years, I continue to face relentless legal battles, loss of income, threats to my life, hate mail, national defamation, cyber stalking, and unlawful surveillance by federal, state, and local authorities. The toll has been severe, but I remain unbroken. We must sacrifice everything to fight for freedom and hand over a republic to our children. President Trump is a shield, yes, but we the people are to keep this republic. I will never kneel to tyrants or back down from this fight. I am blessed to be a mother, an American, and a part of the second greatest revolution of this country. To our officials, restitution and retribution for these actions against the people are non-negotiable. We will not stop until there is accountability, come hell or high water. God bless all of you, and God bless America. Now I introduce to you the founder of Mom Army, Sek Smith.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to everyone right behind me who's been fighting relentlessly. My name is Sek Smith. I'm the founder of Mom and Dad Army. Our mission is to protect children and their innocence. And for forever, we have all agreed that the innocence of children should be preserved and protected. But as of recent, we have seen across the country the relentless attacks not only on our children, but on parents. And I am here representing parents in our group across the country who have been in the trenches fighting at huge risk, to speak up, speak loudly, and speak courageously to defend our children. I have a parent who has been under 4 investigations by our military. I have a parent who was under investigation and fired from her job. And the list goes on. And I am here to stand united with everyone across the country who is disgusted by the gross targeting of parents by the Biden's administration and Merrick Garland's DOJ. We cannot go silent, and we cannot have this go unanswered. We need solutions, and we need this to never happen again. And I would like to thank the Trump administration for considering addressing this issue in a way that will prevent this from happening again. Thank you all. And I would like to introduce Julie Pickrin.
Thank you. Julie Pickrin, Texas State Board of Education, District 7. I have the honor of representing almost 2.5 million Americans and serving almost 6 million children every day of my life. The reason why I'm here is because the weaponization of the Biden administration and the Department of Justice was birthed in the suburbs of Houston. Aldine Independent School District trustee Viola Garcia, who was elected president of the National School Board Association in April 2021, wrote a letter, a 6-page letter to the Biden administration on September 29th, 2021, asking for the Biden administration to weaponize the Department of Justice against parents. And I quote, as she said, unruly parents. She asked the National School Board Association, under her leadership, asked him to consider labeling parents domestic terrorists, therefore making parents subject to the Patriot Act, an act that was passed as a response to 9/11, to the horrendous attack on our country. Parents were now they were asking for parents to be labeled as the same terrorist who committed 9/11. Ms. Garcia, president of the National School Board Association, with the support of state school board associations, went on to say that parents should be considered domestic terrorists, were primarily complaining about critical race theory and forced mass mandates. Critical race theory instills into our children woke indoctrination that they are either oppressors or they are victims, and it steals the American dream from our children. Parents whose only opportunity to communicate with their school board for 2 minutes, some instances maybe 3 minutes, once a month, to voice their concerns about pornography in schools, critical race theory, DEI, and medical decision-making power for their children, were now faced with the weaponization of the U.S. Department of Justice, the FBI, U.S. Homeland Security, and the National Threat Assessment Center. This request was funded with our tax dollars. It was parents who go to work every day to pay their taxes and to provide shelter, a home, food, and an education for their children. Their dollars were being used against them to take away their parental rights and to destroy their families. Parents, teachers, members of the public were being threatened to have their lives ruined by a request from this taxpayer-funded lobbyist organization and a radical government to silence voices who oppose their woke indoctrination of their children. In the Bible, in Psalm 127, the Lord is very clear. Children belong to their parents. When God said that children are a blessing from Him, He was not talking to government. He was talking to parents. President Trump has been an incredible warrior for parents and for families. We have seen great successes from this administration in policies that remove DEI from our education, critical race theory from education, restoring parental rights, and providing the American dream again for our children and teaching our children how to dream big. But the federal government, we still have work to do. We need to pass the Parents' Bill of Rights. Every state needs to recognize that parental rights are God-given, not government-given, and every state needs to pass a strong parental bill of rights. Also, we need a formal investigation into the organizations and the associations and the people that were part of the weaponization of the federal government against parents. The weaponization of the federal government destroyed families. Families are the bedrock. They are the cornerstone of civilization, and we must promote and do everything we can to protect parents' rights and to protect families. Also, we need to pass policies that promote the traditional family, and we need full transparency and education. Parents need to know beforehand what their children will be exposed to and learning to prevent woke indoctrination of their child. Parents, I want to say thank you for showing up. Thank you for speaking up. Please never give up, and God forgive us for the weaponization of our federal government against families, the first team that God created. And I want to say, God bless America. God bless my great state of Texas. And thank you. Now I would like to introduce Chirona Bishop. Thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. All right. Well, my name is Chirona Bishop. I'm from Colorado. My husband is Neil Bishop. On November 16th of 2021, we heard loud banging on our front door, and it was the FBI. They took a battering ram to our front door, pulled us out of our home by gunpoint, put us in handcuffs on our front step for my two little children to watch with tears in their eyes. What was my crime? As a mother, connecting people is literally what they told me while they went through my home for 3.5 hours terrorizing my family. But it didn't stop there. We've been under investigation for 3.5 years. We've never been charged with any crimes. What we did was we implemented exactly what we believe, the Constitution. This is a nation by the people, for the people. We have a fundamental right and obligation to make sure that we advance the policies that we believe in. And I believe the state has no representation with my child, and neither do they with your children. So we stood up, and here's the reality of today. There are so many families that are not here. There are so many parents who have lost hope, who have literally slumped their shoulders, and they've moved on because there was no justice. We demand justice for a government that weaponized itself against parents, against moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, uncles and aunts. We are not forgetting simply because there's a new administration. We demand that these families be acknowledged, be apologized to for what this previous administration did. I also want to just take a moment to talk about the FBI. Merrick Garland, who still, he had contempt for Congress, but nothing happened to him. This dual system that does not favor the citizen, what are we supposed to do? When government comes to our home and says, you're now a criminal, they don't abide by the Constitution, they don't give two cares about what is right, only what is expedient for them. What are you to do, American citizen? Well, I tell you what, today is the first day. It is a step in the right direction to at least have a voice and a platform to remind America of what our government did to us. They weaponized us based on our beliefs. Political, religious, it didn't matter. If you were opposed to the Biden administration's agenda and their policies, they came for us. And those parents who can't be here today, we're speaking on behalf of them. They deserve to have acknowledgement and restitution. And this should never happen again in this great United States of America. So we call on that public apology, number one, and restitution for these families, my own included. Such an interesting little side note. My husband was pushed out of his 24-year career, unable to provide for his family after the FBI entered our lives. Criminal justice told not to speak at school boards, given his first disciplinary action in the state of Colorado for speaking up on behalf of children. This is the state that we were living in. But here's the thing. We are not interested in rhetoric. Ed Martin, he is now running the weaponization work group. I wish he was here today because this is literally what he's supposed to be taking care of, all of this. And we need it now. We demand it now. My name is Chirona Bishop. I'm from Colorado, a parent that was weaponized against by the FBI. And to this day, maybe all of you wonderful journalists, all you media here today can request it, have also not been giving the footage of the raid at our home, even as of today, almost 4 years later. You tell me why. Would America believe that our government was capable of doing what they did to my family that day? Absolutely not. They wouldn't believe it. God bless you as we seek justice, dignity, if you will, for parents across this country. Thank you. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Come, please. I'm so sorry. I don't see it on here.
It's on the back.
That's
okay.
Rhonda
To introduce myself.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm Rhonda Thomas with Truth in Education. And let's be honest, the federal government crossed a line it should have never touched. The Department of Justice labeled parents as domestic terrorists, doing exactly what God and the Constitution calls us to do, protect our children. And they did not do it quietly. They came after them with force to investigate, intimidate, and to silence American parents. What happens when parents are silenced? Children are no longer protected. They are programmed. Truth is no longer taught. It is replaced with ideology. Families are no longer the foundation. The state becomes the parent. And freedom is no longer passed down. It is rewritten, restricted, and eventually erased. But in America, parents are the first line of defense. The home is the classroom, the family is the government, and that's why the enemy always comes after the parent first. So what happens to a nation when parents are silenced and the family is weakened? It forgets who it is. It loses its soul. And here's what the media will never say. The battle was never just about policy. It's about worldview. Our schools are not neutral. They are not just broken. They've been reprogrammed. Our children are being taught to reject their faith, erase their identity, hate their country, and depend on government for their meaning and their purpose. They are monitored, scored, and shaped to serve an ideology that has nothing to do with liberty and everything to do with control. Parental authority is being stripped away and replaced with a worldview that redefines truth itself. President Trump understood that, and we thank him for that. Now it's time for every American to stand with the parents who never back down, because if what was done to these parents and families is not acknowledged, addressed, and condemned, it will happen again to anyone who dares to dissent from the system's agenda. So I'm here to say today, now it's time for every leader in Congress, in our states, and in our churches to stand as well. We want our children back. We want our voice back. And we want the fear and shame lifted off every parent and family that dared to speak truth in a time of lies. God tells us parenting is a sacred responsibility. It is a call for true sacrifice of self. Truth in Education stands with Representative Andy Ogles and the Parents Demanding Justice Alliance to bring healing, honor, and restoration to these courageous parents who were targeted simply for answering that call and loving their children. And to all those parents who are still fighting, we honor you. And let's not forget that truth is not a crime and a parent is not a terrorist. Thank you.
So that does it for us. Unfortunately, we don't have any time for questions, but I'm Sam Sorbal on behalf of Parents Demanding Justice Alliance. And any parents that are watching this who have been unduly targeted, please go to realfreedomtalk.com to tell your story so we can represent you. Thank you so much for coming.